Hello, everyone. This is Dr. B from Steps to the Future, coming to you with another college and career conversations. Well, I took the month of July off because I just figured I needed a break and I just needed to do something a little different. So I'm always telling my students about practicing self care. So I decided I needed to practice what I'm always preaching to them. So there are no college and career conversations for July. So we're going to get started back up. I just want to let you know that this first one is just a kind of a back to school edition for those students who are heading back to school, especially those in their senior year who are planning on applying to college. Just going over some information that many of you probably already know, but it certainly doesn't hurt to hear it a second time. And I'd also like to, so at the end, I'll talk a little bit about some upcoming guests. And as always, go grab a quick beverage, go get a snack or what have you. And I will be back and see you in 30 seconds. Okay, everyone, I am back. So let's get started with today's presentation. Remember, if you're here in the audience, please feel free to say hello, to put any questions or comments into the chat. For those of you that are watching this on the replay, please make sure you still put your comments in because I do look at comments that come in after the live broadcast, and I'd be more than willing to answer your questions and to help out as much as possible. So let me get going here, and I'm going to share my screen because I had to put some slides together because so I won't ramble. You know how that is. So some of you out in this audience may have seen some of these slides before, but as I said, it's never it's never a bad thing to hear the information more than once. Sometimes I'm one of those people that sometimes it takes like the fifth time or the seventh time before something really sinks in. So again, let's get this show on the road. So I'm going to start sharing my screen here. Okay, so this is our back to school edition 2022. Um, and let's just get this started. Let's see. I always these little things on the screen always make me crazy. Okay, I just wanted to have everyone think about what it is that we do for our children, our students, the young folks in our lives. This particular TED Talk by Rita Pearson continues to be one of my all-time favorites. Dr. Pearson did her TED Talk in 2013, and unfortunately, she passed away a few months after doing this TED Talk. But I love this quote from her. Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists they become the best they can possibly be. Are you going to be that adult in some young person's life? And young folks, when you have that type of an adult in your life, you make sure you listen to them and you make sure that you absorb all the knowledge and wisdom that they are sharing with you. So, again, that's my challenge to everyone out there. Find that child, be a champion for someone. It's really important that we're all taking care of our kids. It really does take a village to raise a child. And I put the URL in there in case that you want to go and watch this TED Talk. Like I said, it's one of my absolute favorites of all time. Okay. Big news. Some of you have probably, I mean, most of you already probably know this. The Common App reopened officially August 1st, even though it did open back up a little bit earlier yesterday evening. So it is open now for the class of 2023 to begin completing their applications for college. If this is one of the platforms that you're using, please go in and start using it. One of the things I'd like to share that, I don't know how many people know this, but if you're curious about what's on the Common App and what types of questions are asked on the Common App, you can create a practice account. I have a practice account along with my account that I use with my students. And on the practice account, I can see everything that my students see. I can see the same questions. I can fill in the answers. I can put in an essay. I can do every single thing they can do, except I cannot submit the application. So, parents, guardians, counselors, interested folks, if you want to see what students see and what it looks like to have a common application, just go to commonapp.org and you see the URL there. And go ahead and it will ask you, to identify yourself. Are you a first year student? Are you an educator? Are you a parent? Or what have you? Everyone except the student, unless you're a student. Well, if you're a student who's applying for your first year of college, but if you're say you're a sophomore or a junior and you're curious about what's on the Common App, you too can create a practice account. And just like anybody else with the practice account, you will not be able to submit. So go ahead and do that. Find out a little bit more about it. I think it's always so important for people to be prepared to see what's coming up instead of being surprised by anything. And there's such great support. So I might do a full show on just going through the Common App. But right now, I just wanted to let you know that it's open for the class of 2023. And anyone else that wants to have a practice account, go right ahead. Okay, so for seniors and for, college bound juniors and sophomores, this is also good information for you to have. One of the things students and families always ask me is like, what are colleges looking for? What is it that I need to be doing? So, one of the organizations that I belong to, the Independent Educational Consultants Association, conducted a survey asking consultants, what are the top things that colleges are looking for in high school students? And these answers are things that you will see all over the internet and in different books and other folks' webinars, and you'll hear about them in podcasts. But I just wanted to go over them again with you this evening, just so you have an idea of what students should be doing. Again, anyone that's out there, make sure you put some comments in, say hello. So I'm not feeling like I'm out here talking to myself. I love to see who's out there joining me. And those of you that are watching this on the replay, you're always welcome to put your comments in. So one of the first things on there is, one of the first things colleges are looking for is a rigorous high school curriculum that challenges the student. So I was talking with students the other day about what is a rigorous curriculum. This is where students will avail themselves of the most rigorous classes that their high school offers, as long as they know they can be successful in that particular class. For example, if your school offers honors classes, um, try them. If they offer AP or IB, try them. If you feel that taking a class with that level of rigor will result in possibly a C, then maybe you don't want to do that. So have that conversation with your school counselor, talk with your teachers about what it is that you should do. But colleges want to know that you are definitely out there challenging yourself academically. So again, take the most rigorous courses. And then again, they want you to have a great GPA. So they're not all of them are looking for straight A's. But again, remember, if you're, excuse me, I'm really talking over myself today. If you're planning on applying to highly selective colleges, you need to know that GPAs tend to be high. So again, think about that. Go on the college's websites, look at the average GPAs. Actually, you can go on many colleges' websites and you can do a find the class of 2022 or 2023, what their incoming freshman profile is like. So definitely think about doing that. High scores on standardized test scores. Now, this is one that right now, and it may not be as important because during the pandemic and when so many folks were not able to get in a testing date, they couldn't sit for an SAT or an ACT, many colleges went what we call test optional, which means if you had test scores, you have the option to decide whether or not you're going to submit them. And there's a whole train of thought on when to submit scores and when not to submit scores. And I'm actually not going to get into that tonight because that's something that could take up a whole lot of time. So as you're looking for at colleges, look at their testing policies. Are they test optional? Talk with your counselor, talk with your consultant, figure out, is it best for you to apply with test scores to a particular school? This number 4 is really interesting. Passionate involvement outside of school. So students ask all the time, what activity should I have on my resume or on my activities list that colleges want to see? Colleges want to see, what is it that you're interested in? What is it that you are deeply involved in because you like that particular activity or you're really interested in that particular strategy or that particular organization. So again, think about it. It says a few activities. So even though on the Common App it allows you to put in up to 10 activities, it does not mean you have to do all 10, folks. Do not get on there and say, oh, well, all right, I've got 6 good ones here. Let me just throw anything in for the other 4. Don't do that. Just concentrate on those things that are of interest to you. And again, this is just a snapshot of it. So I'm not going into all the details because if not, I would probably be here until like 10 o'clock tonight. Number 5, a well-written essay. It's really important because the essay is your opportunity to tell your story. This is where you get a chance to let admission readers know who you are outside of what it says on the transcript, outside of what the letters of recommendation say. Or, you want to tell your story in a way that validates the letters of recommendation. So, again, those well written essays. Leadership outside of school. Now, this is one I always tell students not to get so crazed about because a lot of times when we think of leadership, we're thinking of positional leadership. Are you the president of the club? Are you the secretary? Are you the captain of one of the sports teams? Leadership does not always have to be positional. There's also what we call situational leadership. Are you the one who, when a family in your neighborhood had some hardships, are you the one that put together a food drive or a blanket drive or something like that? And that was like a one time deal. That's still leadership. That's taking ownership of something and putting it together. So think about that. As it says on there, depth rather than breadth is really valued. Okay, so think about that. Sometimes number 7, sometimes they're looking at, your personal characteristics because colleges are all looking for to create an incoming class as diverse as possible. We're talking about diversity of race. We're talking about diversity of ethnicity. We're talking about diversity of sexual identity. We're talking about diversity of geographical location, political views, everything, everything. So again, look at the college's mission statement, read about what their past class may have looked like, and you really have to do your research. And just because you hit one of those diversity buckets they may be looking for does not mean that's an in for you. But just think about it. Strong counselor and teacher recommendations. So it's really important that you know your counselors and your teachers. If you're a senior, you should already have put in mind who you're going to ask, or you should have already asked them to write your recommendations. If you have not done so, you still have time, but find out what your school's policy is for requesting recommendations. I know when I was a high school counselor at East Providence High School, our students used to have to fill out a form that they would then give to our school counseling secretary, who would then pass that information on. So again, find out what your school's policy is to request recommendations. Excuse me. So, any special talents? This is the time when if you're an athlete, if you're a musician, if you're an excellent writer, if publish, if you have some published work, if you're an artist, there may be many categories that will fit into this. Intellectual curiosity. Now, this is one. This is one that's always interesting, and it says, through reading, research, and extracurricular pursuits. Colleges want to know that when you come to their campus, that you are going to do more than just go to classes and do the bare minimum. They're trying to figure out, are you going to be a student that's going to come to our campus and not only survive, but are you going to thrive on our campus? Remember, colleges don't want you to just come to their school. They want you to come to their school, do well, and graduate in 4 years. That's what they want you to do. So here's an example. Some colleges will ask you to list books that you've read lately and books that were not assigned by the classroom teacher. So they're trying to gauge, what is that you like to read? What types of books are you reading? Are you reading anything? So they're trying to see, this is another way to help them see whether or not you're a good match for their school. So I'm always on students. You know me, those of you out there that are listening, those of you that know me, I'm always on you about, you need to be reading every day. And when I hear people say, I don't like to read, my response is, then you need to find something that you will like to read. Is it comic books? Is it manga? Do you like graphic novels? Do you like magazines? Find something. Parents, help your children out there doing it, because it's so important. You can go to your public libraries with a library card, and you can take out anything that they have that's available for you. So make sure you do that. Number 11, your characters and values. So again, this comes through in the letters of recommendation that people are writing for you. And number 12, demonstrated interest. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Again, this is another topic that could uh, take up a whole evening, but demonstrated interest for some schools is really important. This is a way that you show a particular college that you're interested in attending that college before you actually do an application, before you actually submit an application. And how do you demonstrate interest? A couple of examples are through campus visits. Now, what if you can't visit a campus? That's okay. One of the silver linings in COVID is that every college has really stepped up their virtual game. So if you go onto a college's page and you look at the section that says visits and go through there, I am sure you will find something that aligns with virtual visits. Now, here's a tip. Anytime you have to do a virtual visit or something virtual, try to do a session that's live with somebody from admissions. So they'll have virtual visits that are, videos that are up there that you could watch at any time of the day. And then there are visits where virtual tours or virtual visits or virtual sessions that are done with admissions people where they are live. So they see you on the Zoom. If you have your camera on, you can ask questions. The reason why you want to do one of the live ones is you want them to know that you are there. If you're going to visit a campus and it's not during the regular visiting hours, make sure you let them know in some way, whether through a follow-up email or something, that you are on their campus. So again, tons of ways. Most important way, if a college sends you an email and it's a college you're interested in, open that email. Colleges now have these sophisticated student management systems where they can track whether or not students are opening their emails, how long they're staying on the emails, what links they're clicking on in the emails. So, again, if there's a college you're interested in and they're sending you some email, you need to make sure that you're opening that up. Okay, let's go on to the next thing. And again, remember, any questions, let me know. So, here's another thing when I talked about having that rigorous curriculum. Taking those honors courses, AP courses, IB courses, if your school offers them. When your school counselor sends in your transcript, they are also going to be sending along a document called the school profile. This particular school profile is one that was created and designed by the school counseling department in each high school. It will show all kinds of information about your school. In particular, it will show what courses are offered to students. So if your school offers AP classes, those AP classes will be on that school profile. If they offer AB or honors classes, they will be on that school profile. And when admissions people are looking at your application and they're looking at your application in context to other students from your school, they're looking to see, okay, this school offered 10 APs. We have several students here that avail themselves of that who took maybe, anywhere from 6 to 10 APs. Then we have someone else here that only took one and got an A. So how come they didn't take others? So you may have a really good reason, but if you can take a rigorous course and do well, please take it. Please take it because it really does count. It really does count. Okay, going to talk a little bit about standardized testing. So, even though many schools are test optional, and right now in the state of North Carolina, we are test optional for most of the schools. Again, go on schools' websites and see what exactly it says about a school's testing policy. One of the things that's important to know is that there are some state schools around the country that have gone back to requiring a test. So, for example, if you wanted to apply to a public university in Florida or Georgia, they do require a test. One of the questions I get all the time from parents and from students, so what's the difference between an SAT and an ACT? Which one should I take? Which one's a better test for me? Um, I love this handout from Appleruth. So I'm going to, the URL is up there. And just for transparency, I do sit on the Appleruth Counselor Advisory Board. I don't get any kickbacks for talking about their products or anything or any services they provide. I just think this is one of the best handouts that I've seen. So if you go to this URL that's on the screen, you can put in your information and you can get this 4-pager that tells you the differences between these two tests. Because some people do better on the ACT, some people do better on the SAT. And yes, colleges will accept either one. So you don't have to get hung up on, oh, I've got to do well on both. Colleges will accept scores from either one if you are submitting your scores. So keep that in mind. Let's see. Let's go on to our next page here. Oh, the essay. This is, you know what? This is such a crucial piece of your application because, as I said earlier, this is the opportunity to tell your story, to be able to help whoever's reading your application get a better sense of who you are. Although this, a lot of colleges, many of the colleges do not do interviews anymore. So you don't get the chance to sit across from a table or on a screen and talk to someone about who you are. However, this is where your essay comes in. So, for example, when you're doing the personal statement, and that's if you're using the Common Application, they have 7 prompts that you can choose from. And there's a whole series of pre-essay exercises that I do with my students, and I know most counselors and independent consultants do with their students also. But again, you can go on the Common App and you can see what the 7 prompts are. But again, think about it when you're writing that statement. What do you want your application reviewer to know about you that is not conveyed in your application? So again, that's something you can do. And anyone that's a senior now, and if you haven't started back to school yet, please get started on your essay. Get started on that personal statement. Any of this that you can complete before you return to school full time for your senior year, you'll thank me for it later. You're going to have so much going on during your senior year. So anything that you can do towards your application, get it done now. So every college, well, I shouldn't say every college. Many colleges have what we call supplemental essays. So in addition to the main essay, colleges are able to ask you questions that are of concern to them or of interest to them. They can range from essays that require, up to 650 words, down to very short essays. And I've just put a couple of examples up here. So, one of the supplemental essays that typically is on North Carolina State University is that, so this was right from the Common App, and they're talking about how they're committed to building a just and inclusive community, one that does not tolerate unjust or inhumane treatment, and that denounces it clearly and loudly. You have to describe to them what those words mean to you and how you will contribute to a more diverse and inclusive NC State environment. That's a required supplemental essay if you're applying to NC State. So again, think about it. And I want to say that's is that 250 words? So again, think about that. Now, on the shorter end and a little bit lighter, Elon University has some supplemental questions that are 30 words or less. So you have to be able to really answer these questions clearly and succinctly in 30 words or less. What brings you joy? We're in your hometown. Where should we eat and what should we order? So think about that. Name 3 songs from your perfect playlist. So again, those are just examples of supplemental essays and also information about the personal statement that is part of the common application. And that happens to be if you're using that particular platform. There are other application platforms, but most of what I'm talking about this evening is focusing on the common application. So those letters of recommendation, it's really important that as much as you can, you establish a relationship with your school counselor, because many colleges will require a school counselor letter of recommendation. Not all do, because they understand that school counselors have ridiculous caseloads and cannot write quality letters for the number of students that they have in the senior class. So again, you need to pay attention to who has to write a letter of recommendation for you. And I just included these little pictures up here. So, this one over here to the left, this is when I was a social studies teacher. So again, I used to have to write letters of recommendation. And in the other 2 pictures, I was a high school counselor with one of my wonderful students who now has her own business called Restore More. She actually went into education and eventually left educate. Well, not didn't leave education. She's just doing something different in education. But again, had to write many letters of recommendation for students at East Providence High School. This is my messy office. It was funny when I looked at this. I said, "Oh my God, my desk still looks like that." So I guess I always did have like a messy office and a messy desk. Things haven't changed much, because if you could see this desk now, you guys would say, "Whew, what a mess." But I'm not going to show it to you. Okay, extracurricular activities, special talents, leadership. What is it that you're doing? What is it that you want to share with your audience? So think about it. Are you working? And when you go on the Common App and you're on that section that says activities, you'll see a drop down list where they will give suggestions for different types of activities. One of the things I tell students, if you're working, that's an activity. If you're one of those students like I was, I was responsible for my youngest siblings because my mom worked. So part of my responsibility was to come home right after school and make sure that my younger siblings were taken care of and were doing their homework and whatever else needed to be done before my mother came from work. There was a time when that wasn't valued on the applications. You didn't see that on the applications, but it's certainly on the Common App now. So if that fits you, then that's something you definitely want to share with the readers. Are you working? Are you in the school band? Um, all right, guys. Yes, I was a high school cheerleader for 1 year. I cheered for the basketball and football team at Central High School in Providence, Rhode Island. Yes. At one point, I was part of the tutoring club, so I used to tutor other students. So yeah, these are from back in the day when some of my extracurricular activities when I was in high school. Are you playing sports? Are you on student government or something like that? Let them know. And again, if you're not sure what it is, if it's something that you're doing that's outside of the academic realm, outside of the classroom, outside of something that your teacher has assigned you to do, that's an extracurricular activity. So please make sure you do that. Folks, again, any questions, any comments, make sure you throw them in the chat. Those of you watching this on the replay, if you have questions, please put them in the chat and I will definitely see them later. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide here. So this is something that I really want, even for younger folks, younger people that aren't applying to college this year, to think about. There are different ways that you can apply to college, different admission options. And this is a handout from the National Association for College Admission Counseling that gives some information about this. And for a copy of the flyer and to get more information, you can certainly go to that URL that's at the bottom of the flyer. But when you're applying to college, you're thinking about, am I going to apply regular decision? Am I going to apply rolling admission, early action, early decision, restrictive early action? These all have a place in the application process. For many students, they may be applying early action. So, early action, as it says there, you apply early and you receive a decision early. However, you don't have to make a decision until May 1st, which is a little different than early decision ED. You apply early, you hear early, but you have to, if a college accepts you early decision, that's what we call a binding commitment. So you have to withdraw all your other applications and say yes to the dress. Now, the only time, usually the one way to not have to keep that binding commitment is if for some reason financially it's not going to work out for you. A college is not going to force you to come to their school if after everything's been said and done, after financial aid award letters and what have you, that it's not in your family's budget. So again, pay attention to the different options. As I said, this is a brief overview, so I'm not going to any of these in depth because one of these by themselves could take a lot of time. But again, these are the components and items that you need to be thinking about, whether you're applying this year or you're thinking about applying to college later. Guys, I'm going to talk to you about reading. So you definitely need to be reading at all times. You need to make sure that you have a library card from your public library. I spent a lot of time during July, reading and, because I keep buying books and then I need to make sure that I'm reading all those books I keep buying. So here's one that I'm reading now that I'm going to share. And there's another one I'm going to share at the end. But this is one that I'm reading now. It's called The Catch Me If You Can: One Woman's Journey to Every Country in the World. So I actually saw this author interviewed on a daytime talk show. I think it was Good Morning America. And her name is Jessica Nabongo. And this is her book about, she's visited 195 countries. And in this book, she tells us about 100 of the countries she visited. One of the reasons this was of interest to me is because I'm a former geography teacher. So I love learning about different countries and different cultures. And I love the idea that she decided to do this and to write a book about it. And it's so interesting. And with everything that's going on in the world, it's nice sometimes just to read something that's just for pleasure. So again, It's so important, folks. Make sure you're reading, reading, reading. And as I said, I have another book at the end, especially for young adults. Okay, so let's go on to our next slide here. So other thing I like students to do is kind of explore their career interests. Now, sometimes kids will say to me, "But I don't know what I'm going to major in," and they get upset and they feel like, "Oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to major in." You don't have to know what you're going to major in, but I do want you to think about what you may be interested in. And one of the ways to do that is, first of all, you can read about different careers. But one of the things that I like to do, I love listening to podcasts, watch videos. So these are just a few things that I want to share with you. So Tech Rap Queen is a podcast by Renee Reed. Renee is a senior manager UX researcher, designer, user for LinkedIn. And in her podcast, she interviews Black and Brown folks who are in the tech world. So, for those of you who are very interested in going into the technology space, um, even if you're not Black or Brown, the folks that she interviews gives you such great information about the work that they do. So, again, that's Tech Rap Queen with Renee Reed. Another one of my favorite podcasts is How I Built This with Guy Raz. It's just amazing because he interviews people, and some of the people you may be familiar with their company, but you may not know how that company started. So, again, that's a great thing to read. This is a podcast, Open Plan Podcast. These two young women are both architects. So, their podcast is all about an architect, a career in architecture. So, I really encourage you, if that's something you're thinking about, to listen to this podcast. Now, I'm just giving a sample up here. There are so many other podcasts, so many websites, so many books, so many documentaries that you could watch. These are just a few, like I said, just a sampling. Road Trip Nation is one of my favorite websites. You can go on their website and see the videos where the participants are actually going on a road trip and they're learning about different occupations, different careers, different things people are doing across the country as they're trying to figure out the next steps in their lives. So remember, everyone doesn't have this all figured out. I didn't just wake up one day and jump out of the closet and say, "Whoa, I'm a teacher." That's it. I had to, work at it and go through, going to college and doing student teaching and practicum and all that other wonderful stuff. But I felt like I was fortunate because I knew at an early age I wanted to be an educator, and I just stayed on that path. The next one is actually, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in this next slide. So, one of the things, for those of you that know me, you know that sometimes on these college and career conversations, I have interviews with career professionals. And I have actually have changed my direction a little bit where I do still interview career professionals, but I'm focusing on Black and Brown folks, Black and Brown career professionals for me, for a personal reason, because as a young person, I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me in a variety of our occupations. And I firmly believe, sometimes you can't be what you don't see. So I've just decided to just take a little, not a detour, but just to focus more on my playlist of Representation Matters. So if you go to that URL, bit.ly/CC, you'll be able to see all of the interviews that I have done, that are actually on that YouTube channel, because there are others I've done. Not everything's made it to that channel. But then you can also go to my website, and if you go under resources, you will find a list there. You will find this same URL, but you will also find it attached to a Google Doc that lists the careers that have been highlighted on Representation Matters. And you can go directly to that video without scrolling through. So again, that's something I want you to think about. Now, some upcoming events. Now, some of these events are location specific to North Carolina, but the first one isn't. So remember when I was talking to you about demonstrated interest and the importance of sometimes letting colleges know that you're interested in their particular institution? So NACAC is doing a series of virtual fairs again. When you go on to these fairs, many times, 9 times out of 10, for each of the schools, there will be a session that is live with somebody from the admissions office. Sometimes it's from a particular department, but the whole gist of it is you can go in the chat or sometimes unmute yourself and talk live to a person and they know you're there. So this is the upcoming schedule for the virtual fairs, with the first one the end of this month, August 29th. These are free to anyone. All you have to do is go on that website, virtualcollegefairs.org, create a free account. And I would definitely put in the piece where you can put in a reminder, so they'll send you a reminder email when it comes up. You can go on there. Once you register, you can go on and you can see what schools are going to be at which of those dates, so that you find out a little bit more. So again, that's the NACAC virtual college fairs, which are open to anyone, anywhere in the world. Locally, colleges that change lives. This is a group of about 44 small liberal arts colleges that have been given this designation. They're now back on the road again. They're not going to everywhere across the United States, but quite a few places. They've already gone to some places. I was talking to one of my students in New England, but they've already had their New England run, so she wouldn't be able to go see them. But if you're here in the North Carolina area, they are going to be in Charlotte, August 23rd. It's a Tuesday evening from 7 to 9, and the information is there. Register in advance because they do like to know how many people are coming. And again, you can get information about these schools. Again, this is demonstrated interest. And even if there's a school you're not quite sure about, go and listen to the presentation. It's really important to learn about the variety of colleges that are out there. You know, so many people know the name colleges, but it's important to expand your horizons and find out about all that's out there, because it's all about finding a fit for you. It's not finding going to that school that your neighbor went to, or that your best friend is going to, or that, you know, your parents might have gone to. It's about what is right for you. Okay, you can continue. For more information, you can follow me on Facebook to get more college and career updates. I post on there daily. And also Steps newsletter. I will be starting that back up in for September. So if you're interested in the Steps newsletter, there is the URL for you to subscribe to it. This is a snapshot of my webpage. So again, if you're interested, you can go to resources. When you click on resources, this is where you'll see resources around college planning, paying for college, career. There are some books listed there for parents to read. If you want to make an appointment, if you want to do a consultation, I do free consultations, a 30-minute consultation. So you can go on this appointment tab, and the first column, the left-hand column where it says for prospective students, that's where you can make an appointment for a consultation. And then my current students, they can make their appointments using the other link. And just some other information. I'm still in the process of updating. My poor web person is always getting on me to update my website, and it's like one of the last things I get around to. But I'm going to like really push through this August and get as much done. And again, any questions, let me know. If you don't have questions now, you can always put them in the chat, or, you know, put them on the site at another time. And this is how you reach me. If you're interested in college and career counseling, and you just want some more information, my email is drb@stepstothefuture.com. And again, that is my website. And before I leave, one of the things, I told you I've got to talk about a book. So one of my favorite young adult authors is Jason Reynolds. I love Jason Reynolds. And if you haven't heard of Jason Reynolds, please go on the internet and do a search for the books that he has written. So here is one series of books that he's written. It's called the Track series. Okay. This is 4 books. And let me read you the back of it. It says, so it's about 4 young folks who are becoming part of a track team. Okay. So Ghost is the rookie. This is Ghost's book. Okay, so here's the book, the Ghost book. That's in this set of 4. Patina is the powerful. That's book 2 in the series. This is a great book for anyone that's into track and field, any young person that's into track and field. Sunny is the child star. Here's Sunny's book. And Lou is the lightning bolt. And here we go with Lou's book. Okay. A fast but fiery group of kids from wildly different backgrounds become family after they're chosen to compete on an elite track team. They all have a lot to lose, but they also have a lot to prove, not only to one another, but to themselves. Race through each one of their stories in this complete collection of Jason Reynolds' New York Times best-selling and award-winning track series. So again, that is, like I said, I'm a huge Jason Reynolds fan. So it says, he's a young adult author, but I'm telling you, all of his books have lessons in there for all of us, no matter what age you are. So again, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. I really appreciate it. Again, if you are interested in college and career counseling services, you can always reach me at Dr. B at Steps to the Future. I'll go on my Facebook page and send a message. I'm all over social media. Thank you, everyone, for participating this evening. I hope you learned a little something. I hope there was something within this that gave you information that you needed and also helped you figure out your next steps, because it's so important that you have a plan and that you keep it moving. So take care, everyone. I will be back next week. In the 2 weeks after that, I will have guests. So I'm working on getting my guest list back up again, but I will see you next week for another college and career conversations. Take care, everyone, and have a fantastic evening.